Hey, real quick before we start today's video, I just want to invite you guys to a free web class that I'm doing talking about microgreens and how you can make $1,500 a week profit without selling to any of the conventional market streams such as farmers markets, restaurants, distributors, or grocery stores. Out of all the over 1,000 videos that I've published on my YouTube channel and my website over the last 6 years, this is by far the most valuable and relevant to the time content that I've ever produced. If that sounds interesting to you, click the link in the top right of the screen or go directly to microgreenswebclass.com or follow the link beneath this video. Today we're talking all about microgreens and my guest is a fellow named Donny Greens. He's a YouTuber and he's an expert microgreens grower. In fact, Donny has contributed some amazing content to my recently re-released microgreens course. And in this video today, we're going to be going deep into some of his production and marketing systems that he uses on his farm. This is going to be a longer form interview, but we're going to cut it short at about the 50-minute mark, and then the rest will be available up at fromthefield.tv. So hope you guys enjoy this one. There's a ton of value in this video. Hey, Donny, thanks for joining me today, man.
What's going on? How are you?
Great, great. So, you know, I love what you're doing, and I've just been fascinated with your journey selling microgreens, and it's so cool that as a guy who's relatively young and even relatively new to this, you're totally crushing it with microgreens, especially with the new kind of marketplace scenarios that we're dealing with right now. Yeah. Do you want to, can we start with maybe you just kind of introducing yourself and telling us a bit about what's happening with your microgreens and where you sell and it's kind of the basics of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'll start from the beginning. I always knew I wanted to do something in agriculture and I wanted to work for myself. So I was scanning the internet. What am I going to grow? What am I going to grow? I saw your stuff with the like the front yard gardens and all that, super cool. And then I must have found something about the microgreens because I remember seeing those videos and being like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. That's exactly where I'm supposed to start. So I jumped in, it's about 4 years ago now. I started in my parents' basement, super small space, maybe like 3 racks. And I remember my total investment was around $3,000 or $4,000, which obviously includes a ton of mistakes in there. So I was net positive in 9 months after starting. And then before I hit my 2-year mark, I was doing 6 figures and I had a 6-figure business. So super exciting, super random. Like at the like looking back, it was slightly risky. Like I just dropped all my money into this random microgreens thing, but I just knew in my heart that this was right for me. So yeah, 9 months net positive. Then at that point I was making money. So I knew I needed to get a bigger space. So I left my space in my parents' basement and I actually found an old rundown deli around the corner from my house that I literally grew up skateboarding in the parking lot. So funny. No way. Yeah. And, the whole town knows this place because it was a deli in a residential neighborhood, which is unheard of. It was grandfathered in. And then like as the rules changed, and this guy just loved animal husbandry. He had all these crazy animals in the back, like even deer. Like you're not allowed to have deer living in your backyard. But anyways, it was super cool, really funny scenario. And I fixed up this old rundown deli and turned it into an urban farm. I operated out of there for about another year and I went from 3 racks to like 10 racks in a year. Super fast growth. I was doing a lot of farmer.
3 racks. When you say 3 racks, you're talking about like what, 12 to 16 flats on a rack?
Each of my racks holds 20 trays.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were doing 60 flats, then went from there.
Yeah, so I was doing, right around 60 flats in my parents' house, then moved into the new farm, and within 1 year I was doing, I mean, it's not exactly 200 flats per week because some of them are on the racks sitting for longer than a week. Right. But very quickly I was up over 100 trays per week and operating with 10 racks. And then not this past February, but the February before that, February 2019, is when I moved into this facility that you see me in right now. And this has been great to me. Super nice space. And I'm actually located in a building that's surrounded by an organic farm. So they've been doing the farmers markets on Sundays, and I've been having people walk in and see my products. So
Wow.
long journey, a lot of fun. And yeah, so now I'm here where I'm at. When I first saw these YouTube videos, they were telling me that I should be selling to restaurants. And I realized very quickly I didn't really want to work with restaurants. At the same time, I finally found what I was going to do in farming and entrepreneurship. I was also learning about the health benefits of sprouts and microgreens through a friend of mine, Jesse. And he's really the one who introduced me to sprouts. They were growing on his windowsill, and I'm like, what's this? It was like, wow, you can grow your food in 5 days in a mason jar on your kitchen counter, and it's some of the healthiest foods on the planet. Like, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
So that was happening in a parallel to me starting my business. So not only did I not really like working with the restaurants, simply because they were almost like leading me on. This one guy I remember was like, hey man, if you grow cilantro, the whole town will buy cilantro from you.
Yeah, right.
You know? Yeah, I know. Right? So here I am trying to learn how to grow cilantro as a brand new grower. I finally get some cilantro growing. I bring it back in, and he's just like totally uninterested, doesn't want it. So that was kind of an annoying experience.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there are some other difficulties too, like having to work with not only the chef who's going to be using the product, but also the manager or the owner of the restaurant who cares more really about like the cost and the financials behind it. So I was like, you know what? I know the real value of these plants are in the health benefits, and I'm passionate about health, and I want to improve the health and sustainability of my local community. So that's when I came up with this delivery service. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for my local community to get access to these healthy foods. They're new, right? Like people aren't typically eating microgreens in their diets.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge and a hurdle to do the education and teach people how to use it. I might as well kind of pander to that and include some other additional aspects of my service that just makes it easier to close a deal and get people eating these products.
Right.
So
when did you start that customer direct program?
The customer
February 2019?
customer direct program I was doing like literally 2 weeks into the business.
Okay, so you've been doing that all along.
All along, yeah, from the start.
But you were looking at diversifying. You'd try some restaurants and maybe some other market streams, but you'd been doing this thing the whole time. And how serendipitous was that for you when all this COVID stuff started happening? Because your business was already set up to weather the storm of all the lockdowns and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, super thankful just because of that business model that I've put in place, going direct to the consumers' homes. Doing online billing, automatic billing, and all that seamless, hands-free, hands-off interactions. It was great. COVID hit, unfortunately, it's not a good thing by any means, but fortunately, my business has been able to thrive in it. I remember in May, I did like $17,000 in May, which was my biggest month, and that was like at the very peak of COVID. So COVID hit, and then the sales started booming. Everybody was looking for fresh food. They wanted to help their immune systems. And then one of my distributors also, there was like a change in the consumer behavior where they all wanted microgreens all of a sudden, and I was doing a ton more business through them. Like $200 maybe on average per week, 150, 200, spiked up to $1,000 in the matter of like a week or two.
$200 per week to $1,000. You mean in terms of total sales?
To this one distribution company that
Oh, to one distribution company. Okay, right. Yeah.
that was definitely a major driver in some of those higher numbers.
Wow. So, I mean, tell me how that looks. You know, you said in May 2020 you did 17,000 in sales in that month. What does that look like as far as allocation to customers? Is that at this point mostly divided between the hundreds of customers you'll deliver to plus a distributor, or are there some other type of revenue streams in there with different types of customers?
So my customer base consists of about 100 weekly subscriptions. Most of them are home deliveries right to, consumers and families. Then I'm in about 5 or 6 different health food stores here on Long Island. And then basically one distributor.
Okay. So you're doing like over 100 drop-off deliveries per week because you got the 100 customers plus the distributors, the distributor and the grocery store. So I'm curious kind of how that lays out logistically, because I know, I ran a delivery business for many years. We did CSA, we did restaurants, a lot of restaurants, and there was a lot of logistical challenges there. I'm curious how that kind of plays out for you. Like, you use a software that helps you organize that. How do you do that? And they're probably not all on one day, right? You're not doing all that delivery on one day. You're probably spreading it throughout the week, right?
Yep, it's spread out. So basically, I'll tell you my business model right now. I actually want to make a little mini guide to give to people just so they can understand how it is that I created this business. So obviously in the beginning, I'm focusing on home deliveries. I'm hitting up, a few local, small pop and shop health food stores, and I'm building a delivery route. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to max out one day. The more deliveries you have in that one route, the more efficient it's going to be. And I also try to stay as local as possible. Oh, and I forgot to mention the farmers markets. I'm not doing farmers markets anymore, but they played a critical role in my growth as well, because you get to, test out different packaging, test out different prices, get feedback from customers, and then the people who are coming to farmers markets are not only local, but they're also pre-qualified because they're at a farmers market.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped to build my subscription service in the beginning, for sure. So I would build up this route, and I would deliver on Tuesdays, and I would harvest on Mondays. And I would get up, basically I realized that there was some limiting factors, right? So the main limiting factor, there was 2 of them. One is how much you can get done in a day. And then 2 is how much product can you fit in the fridge, in my fridge that I'm using. And I'm still using the same fridge to this day. You can see it right there. It's just a full-size box fridge. No freezer or anything, just one big door, all fridge. And I can fit pretty much exactly $1,000 worth of product in that fridge. So what I did is I built up my route to $1,000. It was essentially half was in the North Shore, and then we would shoot down to the South Shore and go along the South Shore. And once it got to $1,000, I split the route. So now I would harvest on Monday and then do Tuesday deliveries on the North Shore, right? And now by splitting that route, it's more efficient because now I have my North Shore people and my South Shore route. Then Wednesday, I would do another harvest round, and then Thursday, I would deliver South Shore. And that became my 2 main routes. At this point, I'm up to 4 routes. The Monday one is relatively small, and then the other routes are pretty much the same. But yeah, that's essentially how I did this and how I built it. And I'm including the health food stores in with the same deliveries that my customers are in.
Right. Basically, wherever you're going to be geographically, you just stack in there, and then I guess you coordinate that with your customers. So one of the things that I've been really impressed by with your setup is how you kind of have this laid out online, and people kind of it seems like you've got a really good setup for people to come in and sign up for being your service. Now, one thing I haven't noticed, and it's probably just because I haven't delved deep into it, but where do you differentiate on the customer experience between a commercial customer and a residential customer? How does that kind of play out in there?
In terms of prices or in terms of like logistics and signing up?
Kind of all of that. So if does somebody who wants to be a commercial customer for you, do they just go to your website and sign up, or do you kind of expect that they're going to call you and have a conversation?
For a commercial business, it's more of like a conversation. It's either like an email, a phone call, and a lot of those places, I'm not closing those deals via my website. Those are more for like the home delivery people. The health food stores and business to business, I'm going like more like cold direct marketing.
Yeah.
And I'll just contact them, bring in some samples.
Good. So tell us a little bit about, on the customer end, what they expect, because I know, one of the challenges that some people who have tried to do this kind of model with microgreens, one of the challenges they have is that it doesn't make sense to deliver $5 of product to somebody. Now you kind of have a package deal that you sell to your customers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so technically the orders are a la carte. They can order whatever they want. I have $5 options, 10, 15, 20. You can buy in bulk, whatever. They can choose it, whatever they want. But there's one item that has been crucial for my growth, and that was originally the sampler box when I was putting like sprouted chickpeas and sprouted lentils in there. But now I've gotten rid of those products, and it's called the Sunny Sampler box. So it's a bunch of sunflower in the bottom. There's pea, there's radish, there's broccoli, and then a little bit of micro mix. So it's all of my products all in one box, and it's just easily become the best seller, right? So we talked about how people aren't typically eating these products. There's a lot of education and teaching people how to eat it. So with that being said, most of these people don't really know what they want either. So I've guided them into essentially like the Applebee's like appetizer sampler.
Right. That's brilliant.
Created for micro.
Yeah, and it's cool because you've got it all packed in one thing. You just kind of separate them. They all touch each other, but it's all there. So, I mean, I love that because it streamlines things for you on your production end, opposed to somebody doing an a la carte order and wants this and this and this, and then you have to do different packages for each. Now, you did say that they can order a la carte. So does that mean you do have some customers that just literally order $5 of sunflower sprouts and you're going to deliver that? Or is there a benchmark for delivery?
There is a benchmark. So if somebody wants just $5 or $10 of product, that's fine, they can do it, but I'm tacking on a $5 delivery charge.
Okay.
And then for any orders that are $20 and up, it's free delivery because everybody's sharing the delivery cost because of that route system.
Right. Yeah, so I'm sure you're kind of on your end, you're just incentivizing that so much that are most of your customers going that way now?
Every single one. There's nobody really under $20.
Brilliant. So you've kind of set it up that you've built enough of a buffer for yourself there where if the odd person does happen to order a la carte, and I'm sure it happens from time to time, it's not really costing you much, because if 99% of your customers are taking the $20 bundle and then the odd one takes a $5 thing plus a $5 delivery fee, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, and I mean, even with a la carte, there's plenty of a la carte people. There are people who like, maybe they don't like the radish in the Sunny Sampler, so they're getting like a box of pea, a broccoli, and a sunflower. And that's fine. One of the other upsides to the Sunny Sampler and having everything in one box is if you really dive into your numbers in microgreens, the majority of your cost is typically coming from like your packaging, your sticker, your overhead, your delivery. The cost of the microgreens themselves are very cheap. Yeah. So if I'm taking 8 ounces of product and spreading that over 4 containers with lids, with stickers, it's a lot more expensive than those 8 ounces, which actually comes with more in the Sunny Sampler, but in one box with one sticker.
Yes.
So there's higher profit margins there as well. And
Absolutely.
From a production standpoint and streamlining, you're right. Technically, like, it does streamline things a little bit, but the way I pack orders and like my systems for how the farm operates, it doesn't. It's really not a big deal for people to do like multiple packages or a la carte.
Sure. Sure. And again, I guess you've built such a buffer for yourself with that sunny sampler. If that's the majority of your product that you're moving, your margins on that are so good that it covers everything else. So again, I'm curious to just delve into that sunny sampler package a bit more, because it's so smart. Tell me again, what are all the well, first of all, do the products in the sunny sampler change from time to time? It's always the same.
Always the same.
Okay, so tell me again what all those products are in there.
So you're getting 5 ounces of sunflower in the bottom.
Yep.
Hence why it's called the sunny sampler. You get the most of sunflower.
Right.
Then you have 2 ounces of radish on one side.
Yep.
Then we put 2 ounces of broccoli on the other side, stems facing in. And then we put 3 ounces of pea on top. And then we do a little bit of micro mix, which like almost hides the stems of the pea and adds like this little flair.
Fun. Wow. So, I mean, yeah, it's from a production standpoint, I love how you've got, I did a similar thing with my rainbow mix microgreens product that I did for years, where I put it was a mix of, it changed a bit, but it was mostly pea. So it was like 50 to 80% pea. And then I had a red cabbage, a radish, and a broccoli in there. But because the majority of it was pea, I have such a huge margin on that seed that the fact that I had less of a margin on the other ones, it made up for it. Now, I'm assuming it's the same for you, in that what's the total weight of everything altogether?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 12 and a half.
12 and a half. So like 3/4 of a pound of product in there. A little under half of it is sunflower, which you have a good margin on, right? Sunflower is a good one. Probably your most expensive seed in there is either the broccoli or the radish, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's great. So it all kind of comes together.
Absolutely.
So the other thing I'm kind of curious about is kind of how you've got your operation laid out, and maybe what we could do in this is, because you are a YouTuber, and I would encourage everybody who's watching this to subscribe to Donny's channel. I'll make sure I have a link in the video and the show notes. But maybe we could actually get a video and kind of splice it over a bit. But maybe talk about some of the logistics of how you have your shop set up. I remember the first time we had a conversation, because you've made some amazing content for my Microgreens course here. And I remember the first time we talked, you walked around with your phone and you showed me some of the stuff you have, and you've really got your operation laid out really smart. Maybe let's talk a little bit about how you've got this whole thing set up.
So over time, in moving my farm, 2 or 3 times and setting up different spaces, I've kind of like learned what works, what doesn't work, and how the whole operation flows. So I think in general, what I've realized is that your front door should be closest to your fridge, as well as, and then your harvesting station should go after that. Because your products are going to be moving out the door from the fridge, so you want it close to the door. Then you want your harvesting tables right next to the fridge, so you can harvest and then go right into the fridge. I have these sticker dispensers right at the edge of the table that's closest to the fridge, so they get stickered and then go right in. And then I've also realized that your germination room, typically you want in the furthest back of your space, because that's where the process starts. Yeah. So I try to store like soil back there if you have space. I have my soil back there. I have a sink for washing buckets. I have a big cabinet for storing some seeds, and then I have a stainless steel table back there as well for making trays, and then a few racks where they sit on there and germinate. So from that back room, you start the process. They're germinating. 3 days later, they get brought out and put out under lights in the main grow room space. And then kind of adjacent to that space, you're doing the harvesting and then packing it into the fridge, as you can see.
Yeah, there we go. So when you, okay, so I want to just explore your process a little bit more. I like what you said there, because you've really identified the timing and placement of each task, so that basically you're in it might not literally be in a circular form, but you've basically said, okay, product starts here and it ends here. Like how you said, soil at the back or germinating at the back. That's the first part of the process. And then fridge by the door, which I can see right behind you. I'm curious a little bit more about your harvesting process. So I've seen there's a couple different schools of the way microgreen growers do it. Some harvest product and then pack it right away. Some people harvest product, put it in the cooler, then pack it. Which one are you, or are you doing something else?
I'm the first one, and both of these methods are like super intriguing because like batching things obviously helps and improves efficiency. So for instance, when I make YouTube videos, I'm batching 4 at a time, doing all the filming at once and all that stuff. And same thing for microgreens, right? Like we can harvest all the broccoli, put it into a bin, and then go from there and put it into the individual things. But my opinion, as far as the harvesting process goes, is I'm trying to reduce the amount of steps in a process. So we're harvesting right from the tray, and from that cut in our hand, we're going right into the package. So not only, in my opinion, is that like the most efficient because you're reducing the amount of steps, but these products are delicate. Yes. So by going right into the package, you're not risking them like tumbling and getting damaged.
Yeah. Okay, so a detailed follow-up on that. How does that work when you're doing a sunny sampler versus packaging? So you just said you're harvesting broccoli and then that's going to go in there. What do you do when you've got to build those sunny samplers? How does that play out?
Yeah, so when we're doing the sunny samplers, what we do is we have all the trays out on the table. So furthest to the left is pea, then we do radish, and then broccoli is the closest. And then we have our scale with the package. And then on the right side of that is the micro mix. Now I didn't mention sunflower because we preload all the packages. Wow, this is funny. Yeah, this is actually a little bit different and detailed, right?
I knew there was some more nuance to this.
Yeah, I didn't really think of this because you're doing it so often and for so long, you don't really think about the details. But so for harvesting sunflower, that's a completely different process in general, whether we're making sunny samplers or not, because of those damn shells. So we're harvesting a whole tray, usually 2 trays at a time, onto the table. And then we are moving the dirty pile into a clean pile. And as we move from left to right, we're taking all of those seed hulls and any of those like half-grown sunflowers with seed hulls still on them and just throwing them off to the side into a pile until we have one big clean pile. Then from there, if we're just packing in bulk sunflower, we're packing that right into bags. But if we're making sunny samplers, we're going to take that sunflower and just do the bottom half of those sunny samplers of just the sunflower. And then we'll have essentially a stack of 10, 15, 20 of these boxes that are halfway filled with sunflower. And then those are what we're using to do the second half of the process, which is where we're lining up those trays ready to go, putting those pre-packaged boxes on the scale. And then we're doing broccoli, radish, pea on top, and then micro mix, close, sticker, fridge.
Okay, brilliant. So what about the micro mix? How does that play out? What's in the micro mix? And then, because it makes sense to me what you just described. So just to explain it really quickly in layman so that I understand and maybe everybody else understands, just to reiterate it, is you basically lay out all of the packages kind of organized. Broccoli packages over here, sunny sampler packages over here, so on and so forth. You harvest and then those just get allocated to those. And so they're all sitting on the table for a while as you build those out, correct?
Only for sunny samplers, we're gonna have multiple trays on the table.
Right, of course. So yeah, you'll look at your harvest list and say, okay, we've got 50 packages of broccoli to do today. Let's get the broccoli flats, harvest those, pack those out, do all of those individual ones first, maybe.
Yep.
Then okay, let's do the sunny sampler harvest, lay everything out, and then do it all that way.
Exactly. Yep.
Right, because yeah, you only have so much table space. So the thing that I'm curious about is how does that logistically work out when you do your micro mix? So what's in the micro mix, and then how do those steps play out when you do it that way?
So the micro mix is super simple. It's not like it's not like when you grow varieties of microgreens, different varieties, and then mix it all together. This is literally just the spicy salad mix from True Leaf Market.
Okay, it's just it's a mix that you plant together.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And is that where you get most of your seeds in True Leaf?
I would say most of my seeds come from True Leaf. I get like my sunflowers and my radish come in from like a supplier from Italy. And then if I'm getting other stuff like arugula, typically, and like cilantro, I'm ordering from Kitazawa.
Where's that?
I don't know.
Kitazawa. Never heard about it.
Yeah, that's like kind of like a random one that I was told about. Definitely, some people know about them, but yeah, they're kind of weird to order from. But hey, I like their seeds, so.
Wow. So let's talk about your production as far as crop allocation. I'm kind of curious, what crops you grow. We've already talked a little bit about them, but let's lay it out. And then I'm curious how those allocate, because my guess is that sunflower is probably at least half of your production based on what you said about the sunny slump, or maybe a little bit less, or what do you think?
A little bit less. There is a lot of broccoli because I'm in the health niche, and broccoli has just got so much hype about the sulforaphane and the nutrient concentration. So I grow the most trays quantity-wise per week is definitely broccoli. And also the yields play a role there too, right? Because I'm pulling 8 ounces off a broccoli tray, I'm pulling more off of a sunflower tray. So I'm doing sweet pea, which is actually like speckled pea. I used to use dun pea, I switched to speckled pea, they're pretty similar. Then I do the China rose radish for the pink stems, and then that's a spicy flavor. Yep. Then I do the broccoli, which I just talked about, and then the sunflower. The sunflowers are always going on the bottom shelf of my racks, and that's because they're hulls. When I'm swiping those off, I want them to go right onto the floor rather than into another tray.
Sure, yeah, so smart, yeah.
And then the other way you could do that, though, is if you have like a full rack that's a little bit like off to the side dedicated to them. And when I move my farm again, that's probably what I'll do. So then all the seeds are concentrated in one place rather than sweeping the whole farm. Peas always go on top. I find they're just like the least picky. They're so easy to grow. And then everything else kind of goes in the middle. So aside from that, I'm also doing wheatgrass. Okay. Because I'm in the health. That's the health thing.
And does that go to delivery like home customers, or is that mostly a grocery store type product?
Mostly home delivery customers, and then I have like 1 or 2 like health food store juice bars that takes it. To be honest, I hate growing wheatgrass. I don't like growing it. It's just like so easily prone to mold. And unless you keep those temperatures like lower, you're gonna get the mold. But I need to keep the temperature up a little bit, specifically like for the sunflowers. Right. So that's a little tricky. And then I do 1 tray of barley grass per week because I convinced one of my customers that was healthier than wheatgrass, and so he's been drinking that. And then I do the micro mix, and that's everything. Okay. Oh, and arugula. I've been selling 1 tray of arugula, and then I have like some cilantro growing right now for fun and stuff like that.
So that it's a good amount of crop allocation there. You've been in business for what, 2 years now?
4 years.
4 years. What has been, you've obviously arrived at that crop allocation based on, certain criteria, probably like what are customers asking for, what's easy to grow, what seeds you have access to for a reasonable price. In the last 4 years, what's been the most difficult microgreens for you to grow that maybe you either stopped growing or you found some kind of new ways to grow them that make it easier?
So sunflower has been a tremendous pain in the ass throughout the whole process. I can't stop growing sunflower because it's a huge variety for me. Yeah. And also I'll mention, these varieties were super easy to pick because in the health niche, there's other organizations that have been utilizing microgreens to help people to heal. For instance, the biggest one is the Hippocrates Health Institute down in Florida. Now, they're big advocates of pea and sunflower. So that was easy, starting there, pea and sunflower. The broccoli for the super health benefits, and then the radish for that for that stem, for the visual appeal, and then also that covers me for a spicy variety. So that was the thinking there.
Yeah.
And then the wheatgrass is obvious. So sunflowers have been a pain in the butt the whole time. Since I can't stop selling them, I've just had to keep growing them, and I've just learned things, little nuances here and there, things about the seeds, all sorts of different things I know about sunflower, unfortunately, in my opinion. So yeah, they've been the worst. When I first started growing and I just like didn't really know what I was doing yet, I couldn't grow broccoli because I was overwatering it. But now, you know, I know how to grow these things now, so.
Yeah.
Cilantro is trickier because of those little hulls that stick on, but I found that just covering them with a light cover of soil really helps a lot there.
Yeah, so just soil or a vermiculite layer?
Just the same stuff that I've been using.
Okay.
One of the things that I find really important is keeping everything simple, and that also includes keeping the material list simple. So if I don't have to go out and buy something else, I'm not going to do it, and it works with the Pro Mix that I'm using. So it works.
Yeah. And so how's arugula for you as far as difficulty?
Arugula's been fine. Like over the years, like I'm just so, and obviously you know this too, like as you practice and do this every day, you get so good and your knowledge just becomes so intuitive. So when I started growing arugula, I was testing out seed densities, and I realized very quickly that if I didn't want any like molding or rot to happen in the arugula, I just needed to lower the seed density, because the top canopy will block out the bottom canopy. They won't get light, they'll stay yellow, and then they'll just start dying and degrading, and then it'll ruin the whole crop.
Yep.
So I'm running my arugula trays at like 0.5 ounces of seeds, which is like really low.
Yes.
But it's
And what kind of yield do you get off that? Like,
I'm getting 4 ounces.
okay, so you get a quarter pound, that's like 100 grams. Okay.
Okay, like I'd prefer 6 or 8, but
Yeah. Well, and the neat thing is too is, I mean, I found this because I've grown, you know, dozens of different microgreen varieties as you have, is that as long as you look at how things are allocated, some crops have a massive profit margin, like say pea shoots, and then others have a fairly small profit margin, like something like arugula or an amaranth or something like that. But as long as the vast majority of your allocation is profitable, it kind of covers everything else, right?
yep, which is super cool. Because you're making those higher profit margins on the other products that you're selling, you're able to still fulfill the desires of customers in other ways that you don't necessarily want to do a lot of, or that is a little bit cost prohibitive.
Exactly. So are some of those, I'm curious, or maybe you answered it with arugula, but are any of those sort of loss leaders in that respect? Like you mentioned when we talked about how things are allocated for you in your production, you said you do 1 tray of this and 2 trays of that a week. Are some of those loss leaders where you don't really make money at them, but it's worth it for you to sell it to get the customers because then they'll buy other things too?
No, I mean, I'm making profits on everything. There's no like unprofitable microgreens for me. Something like the arugula, say I'm getting such a low yield, I'm just charging a higher price.
Sure.
So it's all profitable. I probably, the thing like wheatgrass is annoying to me. Like that's the one that I want to cut out, but my customers want it, so like I'm gonna keep them healthy.
Right.
But that's not really like a profit standpoint. That's more of just like me not liking to grow it.
Yeah, exactly. And so in regards to some of those problem crops like wheatgrass and sunflower, I'm assuming you're sanitizing that seed.
No, I don't sanitize any seeds.
Really? You just go right in.
Go right in, and typically it's good. Like occasionally I'll just get, like, especially for wheatgrass and sunflower, the seeds are the most important part. I'll have a bag of seeds where there's no mold at all, and then I'll have a bag of seeds that definitely gets mold on every tray, and it's just a matter of if those mold spores are on those seeds typically. I don't sanitize my seeds because I've been able to get away with not doing that. I'd rather not do that, and there may be some beneficial organisms on those seeds that I don't necessarily want to like kill either, from like a really weird, like deep health perspective. And it's just, it would add another step to my process, which would annoy me. Also, the way I'm soaking my seeds, I have an automatic seed soaking system. So if I had to pre-sanitize my seeds, it actually wouldn't allow me to use this system, because you're not going to soak them in the sanitized water. You're going to let them sit in there for maybe 5-10 minutes, right?
Well, you just have to do it before. I've seen that. That's one of the things that you showed me when we first met. It's a really cool setup, because then you don't have to worry about coming to drain them or whatever. It just does it automatically, right? So, I mean, I guess in terms of sanitizing, you just do it before, because it's only 5 to 10 minutes, and then you would load them into there to do that whole step.
The problem though there for me is that at that point, so I have to come in and manually unload. The benefit is that it's putting the water on automatically. If I get the seeds wet and then put them into these buckets, now they're sitting wet, which is a problem. You want to get the water on them right away. So that's like why it wouldn't work with my system. But
right. So I mean, my question, a big question there, because I mean, for me, when I was operating at your scale, or actually at the height of my operation, we were doing about 200 flats. Actually, there was even a time where we were doing up to 400 flats a week. And so if in 2 cycles, I couldn't fit 400 everywhere. We do 2 big crop outs a week. But the challenge I always had is that, and I identified the exact same thing you just said about sunflower, is it really does come down to the seed. The problem I had is that, you know, I'd get these same seeds. They all come from Italy. Like the black oil sunflower, the best ones do come from some Italian growers. I got them through Mum Sprouting Seeds. My challenge was I would sometimes get a batch of seed that I'd even pre-test, and I'd go, okay, I like this. Send me, you know, a pallet full of that seed. I would get that seed, and if I was identifying those problems, I'm kind of screwed. So have you not been in a situation where you are basically sitting on a lot of seed, and if you didn't sanitize that, you're basically compromising half your yield for an entire, 200 pounds of seed that you're sitting on?
So I don't run into any mold problems with any other variety really than wheatgrass. The sunflower seeds, like they'll be wonky and like some won't germinate, and I do see like sometimes mold forming on some of the seeds, and maybe right when you take them out of germination, there's like a big spider web on top. In my sunflower video, I literally tell people to just top water right over that. And it breaks up the mold colony and destroys it. And now that the tray has airflow, once it's in the main room, the mold actually doesn't come back.
It's amazing how, see, I've never been able to do that. But the thing is that's important to recognize with microgreens, just like any other type of growing, is every climate you're in, whether you're inside or out, there's variability. Where you are, because you're in Long Island, New York, where you are, the air you have around you is different than what I have here. And there's so many variables too. The soil you're getting, the humidity, the temperature. What temperature do you operate your main growing room? What temperature do you keep that at?
I try to keep it between like 71 and 73. Okay. If it gets up to 77, I'm going to start seeing some problems. And then if it gets below 70, I'm going to start seeing some, like, the greens just like feel cold. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like especially the sunflowers, they just feel cold. But yeah, I want my germination room to be 69, 70 though. Yep.
Yeah, because if it's too warm, you can run into problems with, that's where I've always run into fungus problems and things like that.
What's cool about microgreens, it's so interesting. Normally, you would want a warm, damp environment for starting seeds, like for vegetables. But because these processes of seed sprouting, they generate waste heat. And when you have a tray that's filled with all these seeds, like thousands of seeds, the trays are getting warm in between. Like I'll grab my wheatgrass to come out of germination into the grow room, and the trays are literally warm under my hands. So that's why I think you want to keep the temperature lower in your germination room, because they're getting so much hotter than you realize.
That's a really good point. And so that leads me to my next question is, what's your germinating process? Are you stacking the trays on top, doing it that way?
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's where you really see that heat, because one thing I've found over the years, some can do it better than others, but sunflower trays, I was never able to stack more than 6 on top because it generates so much heat that the one at the bottom, you would get this like crazy heat spot that would just would basically rot everything in the center.
Wow. I've never experienced that. I've also never stacked my trays more than 6. So I'm always doing 6 max for everything.
That seems to be the magic number. I've never been able to go over that. Yeah, I go over it a little bit, but then you might run into some slight problems. So 6 seems to be the magic number. So that's the way you do it. And then describe what your germination area is look like. Is that do you put them on a rack and bring that to your planting station, or what does that step look like?
So my videos actually that are launching right now on YouTube, the one that posted this Tuesday and then the next 3 are all on Microgreens racks. And in the last video, I talk about other uses for the Microgreens rack, and there's this thing that I built that I call the super rack. And this is essentially a rack on wheels with like 2 or 3 times as many shelves as your grow racks. So in the germination room, I'll make the trays 6 at a time, stack them, put them on, and then this is the second thing in that video, a germination rack. So a little bit of a different setup than the grow room. They go on there stacked, they get a weight on top, like a 14-pound paving stone.
Yep.
And then they're ready in about 3 days for most varieties. So I'll wipe off the bottom of the tray to get most of the dirt off, and then I'll load them onto this super rack. So on this super rack, I can put, I don't even know how many, at least like probably like 40 trays, 50 trays, 60 trays on one rack. And it's improved my efficiency drastically because you can move a ton of trays around the farm all at once. So load them onto this rack, move it out into the main grow room, and then I'm putting these new trays onto the racks as I'm pulling the trays that are ready for harvest onto the super rack, and then I'm using that to harvest as well. I don't know if you can see them, but they're kind of right over
Oh yeah.
there. They sit behind the harvesting station, and then Bree can easily just pull the trays off, and they're all right there ready for her.
Right on. So you mentioned Bree there. How many people are working with you in your operation?
I have, I guess, three, and then plus me, and it's all part-time. I like to have at least a few people because it builds resilience for your company. If somebody leaves, then the other person kind of fill in spots. If
Somebody calls in sick or something.
Exactly. And also cross-training is another great thing to do, which I haven't been doing enough of lately, but having your employees know how to do the harvesting, the driving, and each aspect. So yeah, what was awesome is I had this girl, Dana, and she was doing all the delivery driving and then also helping me with social media. I think because of COVID, her mental health was declining a little bit and she didn't want to work anymore. So she ended up quitting, and I lost my delivery driver, and the person who was finally allowing me to start ramping up social media again lost her all in one, and then I had to start doing the deliveries. And that was like the worst thing that happened to me during COVID. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, my business is still fine and I'm growing and figuring out other things. But so yeah, so I had her and then I lost her. I have one girl doing 1 day a week on Thursdays. That's the big delivery drive. So she's doing that. Then I have Bree. She's a superstar. She does all the harvesting. And then she also does a small drive on Monday. And then I got my dad retired, so he's been doing the driving on Tuesday and Wednesday for me, which is great because now I have time again. Yeah, and that's about it. I do all the watering. I essentially do all the growing. So I'm doing the watering in the morning, then I'm doing all the tray making, and then I'm pretty much done for the day until orders are ready to be packed up. So that's one of the great things about microgreens farming, is this happens once you get employees, and this also will happen in the beginning, where there's not a lot of work that needs to be done. Like the plants know how to grow. They're gonna be there growing for you. So once you set them up, you have a lot of free time. I'm working maybe like an hour to 2 hours a day on actually like farm labor, and then the rest I'm focusing on, you know, YouTube and social media and other aspects, building the software and all that.
Amazing. So Donny, what I'd like to do now is this video is going to come out on YouTube and fromthefield.tv. What I'd like to do now is do a special segment, because we're already 50 minutes into this. This is a long video for YouTube. What I'd like to do is end it here for YouTube, and then I've got a bunch of other detailed questions I want to get in for our members. But so right now we're going to end this one for YouTube. Tell everybody where they can go to learn more about you and check out your videos. You know, you reference a lot of things. Just give people the basics on where they can go and check you out.
Yeah, so definitely go subscribe to my channel on YouTube. It's at Donny Greens, and that's my handle for everything. But my main channel is really my YouTube, where I post the educational videos on microgreens and microgreens business. I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and it seems that the feedback from other farmers and other entrepreneurs, they're loving the videos and finding them super useful. So you can find me on there. And then Instagram, I was starting to get rolling, but like I said, I lost Dana. So, but there's still a lot of great posts on Instagram. I've been making these carousel posts where it's like a topic in the front, you're learning about it, and then a bunch of information is at the end. So Instagram's a great place to learn from my content too. And from there you can find everything else. My Twitter isn't that important. My website's not that important, so.
That's awesome, Donny. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for joining me here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'd love to take this opportunity to invite you to a web class that I'm doing talking about microgreens and how you can make $1,500 a week profit without selling at any of the conventional market streams, such as restaurants, farmers markets, grocery stores, or distributors. Out of all the over 1,000 videos that I've published on my YouTube channel and my website over the last 6 years, this is by far the most valuable and relevant to the time content that I've ever produced. If that sounds interesting to you, click the link in the top right of the screen or go directly to microgreenswebclass.com or follow the link beneath this video.